So what I'm going to share with you today is not coming from what I would call an Ivy League perspective, nor is it coming from the golden environment of being in corporate America, but it's coming from a place of having a very successful career and walking out on a wonderful career, and then seeing what's happening in our economy and learning and having some ups and downs around that. So this place that I wanted to share with you begins what we call here. All right. So the why, what's going on? And I had an opportunity to really find out when I tried to get back into the tech industry, and I went through a number of different challenges and iteration. I said, something has happened here in our economy. I'm not sure what it is. But then as I did a lot more studying and recognized that there's a lot of volatility going on in our country right now. How many of you are feeling this volatility? And how many of you are feeling the uncertainty in our lives as things are just so uncertain right now? And we're also the complexity. I mean, just running equipment, looking at your telephone, starting a business again. This is my third business around. And the first business was quite easy. I didn't have as much regulations, didn't have all the IP. Just complex to do just about anything. And then the ambiguity. So we're living in this phase of ambiguity. And the question is why? And what are people yearning for? So as I was listening and going through meetings, and as I went through some challenging times, as I was reinventing myself, having been humbled and washing urinals to even doing some part-time Uber, Lyft driving, wondering why I couldn't get back into the environment, saying, what is going on here? And what I've learned and what I've heard and what I've studied is that what organizations are trying to do right now is get to what I call this dynamic stage, this transformation stage. And this is the point where you come to your company and you wake up each day, you have meaning, you have purpose, and your company has a structure that reinforces humanity in it. And guess what? You have high performance. And this is what everyone is trying to get to. Now, I'm not aware of any companies that have made it to this point yet. Is anyone in the audience aware of any company that has this sort of environment? If so, I want to talk to you at the end of the session because I want to include that in my book, but I haven't found one yet. But I have found companies that are what I call in the human holistic stage. And these are companies that are doing what I call great works. Companies, you feel it when you walk into them, like a Trader Joe's, right? When you walk in there, there's a certain energy, there's a certain passion that the people have. Google has an environment like that. You may have heard about Gravity Payments, right? Where the CEO there read the Princeton study that came out in 2013 that said for the traditional American dream to become a reality for most people, they need to make about 70 grand a year. And that is, just to have a mortgage, pay for your kids' education, take a vacation trip, plan for retirement, take 70 grand. So he was so moved by that, what did he do? He took his $1 million salary and paid himself $70,000 and said, I'm going to pay everybody $70,000 in my company. It's a smaller company, and they did it. He got over 40 million hits. He's going to have a book coming out, and so you can check that out. But there are some companies that are doing very good work in what I call the holistic stage. But most companies right now, as they look at the struggle and where they're at, they look at the benefits, and they look at what I call they're in the cognitive state. Well, how do we get everybody to work together? Well, let's look at motivation. If we bring all these people together, we'll have great ideas and things will happen, and we'll be able to really achieve greatness by having all of these diverse and different people. And we call that sort of the cognitive stage. And companies do this because they want to reflect their environment. They also want to have good PR, and they also want to have the innovation piece. And so a lot of mainstream corporations are what I call in the cognitive benefit stage. But when we think about it, how did we get there? We got there through pressure, right? And pressure creates reaction. And the reaction comes from either internal or external. So, for example, the construction engineer, if you work for a union shop, and if the people in the union don't feel that they're being paid enough, or they feel that they're being exploited, what do? They strike, right? And you hear about it, so you get that pressure. Or you may get pressure externally out in the marketplace. There may be some disruption. Someone may come out with a new technology, and guess what? You're being forced to change. And what does management normally do when that change is confronted with them? They react. And oftentimes this reaction is out of the pressure, and they'll bring in people from the organization, whether it's a merger or whether they say, oh, we need to have more women, we need to have more minorities. And those are good things, but oftentimes the fundamentals in those organizations aren't dealt with. So what happens when you try to do the right thing? Well, oftentimes those employees will leave, or the people inside your organization feel what? They feel betrayed, they feel threatened. And they think, well, hey, I worked hard, I've done this, why are you bringing all these people in, right? And so you have that reacting stage, and so any inclusive types of activities, they stall. And they create a greater division than what they were trying to do in the first place. How many of you have experienced or seen or had that happen in organizations?